All right. Hello and welcome today. I am going to go over the long-term strategy for health management and wellness. On this first slide, we talk about educating employees. First and foremost, that's so important to educate your employees and on what that communication looks like. What is your communication strategy and what works for you in an organization? If your employees don't know what's being communicated to them, then they are not going to even understand what your program is that you're putting in place. It's also so important to educate them of building the culture of wellness, helping them understand why is this wellness program in place and what are the company's reasons for having it. That second piece is employee engagement. So going along with communication, if you don't have employee engagement, then you won't have a successful wellness program. So employee engagement is so important as part of that program. And along with employee engagement, you really have to think about what does that incentive strategy look like. So some examples of different incentive strategies that we've seen within clients are HSA contributions or premium differentials or a gift card for completion of different activities or in raffles that are set up to be able to get employees to engage. But sometimes I would like to say that annual physicals and biometrics should just be completed because that's good for your health. But a lot of times employees aren't just going to do it because they're being told by their employers. So that incentive strategy is part of that employee engagement. Primary care physician relationship, and we'll talk about this a little further on the next slide, is the most critical step of your program. And this is where it's really starting to turn from a wellness program of activity-based to now that health management side. That primary care physician relationship is the driving force for what that employee's individual health is. You as the employer don't have access to the raw data the way that primary care physician is. So leading to the next one of identifying risk, that primary care physician is able to look at family history, specific biometric risk factors, what that looks like. Do medications need to be involved? Do lifestyle changes need to be involved, such as nutrition and physical? And that primary care physician is able to set up that true plan with that individual. Then we're leading to that outcomes-based program. And this is where you're going to get that true impact of cost and risk. So your program is going from a wellness program of activities to now an outcomes-based where you're able to look at metrics. Not you as an individual HR or an employer, but this is where technology has to come into play because that technology is able to specifically call out to an employee what they need to do and programs that need to be in place to directly affect their individual risk. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. And this is what I like to call the steps for the journey. So maybe can you start off by telling me where you feel like as an organization where you are at today? And maybe you haven't done any of this and that's okay. We'll talk through it. And some employers maybe go from step 1, 2, and then jump to number 5. So it's not where we have to go in order 1 through 7. But I put on here maybe as you're leading up and getting further into your program, what these steps could look like. So that first step is wellness and health management, education and communication. So we talked a little bit about this on the first slide, but helping to build that culture of wellness is so important within your company. If you're not able to share with your employees of the reasons behind why you as an organization want your employees to be happy and healthy and live this lifestyle within the organization, then they're not going to participate. So it's so important to educate them and really build that culture from the leadership down. And communication is so important. What does communication look like? Is it through paper format? Is it through emails? Is it through your company creating videos? What does a communication strategy look like for your company? The second step is wellness activities. So I talk a little bit about wellness versus health management. So wellness is really when you're looking at maybe physical challenges in education, nutrition, different step challenges, different lunch and learn presentations. That's all helping to build that culture of wellness and communication that we talked about in step 1. But that's the wellness side. It's not really that driving risk factor like we talk about in steps 3 through 7. So when we move towards more of the health management side, that's when we're looking at step 3. That biometric screening. So biometric screening is where it can either be done on site or with your primary care physician. And it's either done through a finger stick or it's done through a venipuncture. So there are differences. The venipuncture is that blood draw where an on-site screener may come on site, do the blood draw, and then the results get sent off to the lab. And then they are mailed home directly to the employee within 3 business days. A finger stick is also another good option where a vendor may come on site, do a quick finger stick. It's able to be spun and read right there in the machine, and employees then have access to their numbers right then and there in front of a nurse that can go over those numbers. So understanding your population and what screening type works best for you if you want an on-site screening. There are also other options of sending your employees to a primary care physician to be able to get this done. So with that, a primary care physician visit, you're able to have an annual physical that is covered 100% every single year with that biometric screening. So sometimes it works better for an employer to do it on-site, but then also sometimes it's better to send them to that annual physical with their PCP because they're building that relationship. When you're doing a primary care physician campaign, we have some vendors that are able to collect this data for you where they can collect the true biometrics and then at the end be able to give you that aggregate reporting of what your company's data looks like as a whole. Or there are ways to do this in-house where you're able to just ask your employees to go get the annual physical and biometrics, and then they are able to give you an in-house HIPAA compliant form where it just has a signature and a date of service from that PCP. No data is integrated and put onto that form. So that is how you're able to have a HIPAA compliant in-house program. When we look at number 4, the tobacco surcharge and smoking cessation program, this works for some organizations, but not always for others. So we do have some companies that maybe don't want to go forward with a surcharge, but they want to offer a cessation program at no cost to the employees where the employer is just willing to pay for it. That is available, and we have different vendors that can help with that. If you are looking to have a tobacco surcharge in place, it's really important to understand that you have to have and offer a tobacco cessation program. And you have to have a compliant tobacco affidavit in place as well. So it's a critical piece with the EEOC wellness guidelines that tobacco affidavit needs to be asked annually, and then a tobacco surcharge is in place, and then a tobacco cessation program is in place for an employee to avoid that tobacco surcharge. There's lots of different rules and regulations that we can go into about this and talk further. That step number 5 is where we're looking at online wellness portals and vendors and engagement pieces. So technology has really changed what a program can look like. This is the driving factor for moving towards that outcomes-based program. So a wellness portal is really an individualized platform where each individual employee or spouse is logging in to their own individual portal and seeing their specific activities. And those specific activities can be based on age and gender cancer screenings, tobacco usage, biometric risk factors and what that looks like, as well as potentially other e-learning modules and challenges and the wellness side of things. So it's able to combine both a wellness program and a health management program. On health coaching and programs to address risk. So this is step number 6, and this is moving towards that outcomes-based program. So some clients just really have have a focus on maybe diabetes management because they have a lot of diabetic population. And this is seen through claims a lot of times. So maybe to address diabetes risk management, a specific vendor is put into place where employees are able to work with that vendor to have glucometers and all of the testing supplies delivered directly to their home. And there's digital readings directly to work with their primary care physician. So we have lots of examples of different programs to address specific risks such as diabetes, MSK, high blood pressure, and all of those programs. Then we move towards that outcomes-based program. So this is where we're identifying, we as in the technology, is identifying the specific risk for an individual and then able to have an outcomes-based program of a reasonable alternative. So when you have that outcomes-based program, that reasonable alternative must be offered in order for an employee to avoid any surcharges within the wellness program. And those outcomes or those reasonable alternatives are really looking at number 6, the health coaching and the programs to address, and maybe it's e-learning modules. There's lots of different pieces that you can put as that reasonable alternative, but the technology piece has to be in place for that. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. Okay, bye. Oh my God.